Well, now to the 2020 presidential race. While the pandemic has made covering the campaign anything but normal this year, there's nothing like getting out and talking to voters in person to get a sense of what's behind the polls in this tight contest. So last week, ABC's Martha Raddatz headed out on a cross-country trek from Pennsylvania to Ohio, Missouri to Colorado, getting a pulse of the nation about what's resonating in the race for the White House.
It has been a 2,200-mile journey through America's cities and towns, some abandoned from the COVID outbreak, some far too crowded for safety, others bearing the scars of racial injustice and the fallout. But everywhere we went, the presidential election loomed, from the suburbs with manicured lawns sprouting political preferences to the heartland, where even massive wind turbines and endless fields were dominated by politics. Which is why we began our journey in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. Empty storefronts lined the streets of Braddock, the birthplace of steel, once a former industrial hub.
Well, I'm Joe Scholler. I'm a fourth-generation sheet metal worker.
And an ardent Biden supporter.
Donald Trump just lacks empathy. Joe Biden has seen tragedy in his life. I think he has the empathy this country needs right now.
And it's personal. The once friendly policy talks with neighbors have ended.
It's a lot of anger, screaming, and yelling. It's very hard to get down to the nuts and bolts of things.
John Fetterman is Pennsylvania's lieutenant governor and the former mayor of Braddock. How do you think Joe Biden will do here?
Joe Biden's going to do extremely well. Everybody knows who Donald Trump is, and everybody knows who Joe Biden is and what he stands for. So any kind of approach to try to paint him as like some radical socialist is shockingly naive, and it's going to be absolutely ineffective.
As the country grapples with this contentious election, the reckoning on race is front and center. President Trump has cast himself as the law and order candidate, a message that Trump's base embraces.
What do you think of Biden?
I don't trust him.
For these lifelong Hamilton, Ohio residents, Trump's word is gospel.
I think he almost walks on water.
Mary Rose Durbin says Trump is an imperfect man, but a perfect president.
Well, they couldn't buy him, and they can't control him. Every promise that he made in 2016 that he has followed through on or tried to.
And she will not be convinced otherwise, even on Trump's low support from African Americans, just 11%.
Why do you think there's not more support for him in the African American community?
Oh, honey, I think there's a lot more support for him in the African American community than the media is giving credit for. And I think in November, it's going to show.
He is speaking to his avid followers. He's not speaking to me, and he's not speaking for me.
Democrat Alicia Triggs is a voter in the suburbs of Cincinnati, alienated by Trump's rhetoric.
The things that he says and tweets do not represent me. And while I live in the suburbs, that it doesn't reflect my views at all.
That out-of-touch accusation echoed in the suburbs of Columbus.
What I would like to push back on is Trump's narrative that suburban women are going to vote for him because we're worried about low-income housing, ruining our suburban lifestyle. We welcome diversity where I live.
The comments that the president has made about the suburbs, when you hear comments like that?
I think it's very dismissive and minimizing of what we contribute. I think it kind of plays to maybe the 1950s housewife. That was the role, and that's all that she was. I have wanted to be the stay-at-home wife and mom since I was young. This is my career aspiration. And I assure you that there is still a brain in my head and fire in my heart.
From the Buckeye State, we headed towards the gateway of the West, St. Louis. That iconic arch greeting us the next morning against an overcast sky. In nearby Ferguson, Missouri, a city aflame after the police shooting of Michael Brown in 2014,
that was a new business.
Kathy Jenkins' restaurant was nearly shut down.
My numbers had dropped so low. I always say I almost felt like I was underwater, breathing through a straw.
After those protests, Jenkins, a Biden supporter, started a successful delivery service, but is counting on things getting better.
It's not just about making money, but it's about caring and changing lives.
But those bread and butter issues are vital in this election.
No matter where you go across America, no matter who you talk to, one of the biggest issues is the economy and jobs.
The pandemic also hitting Benjamin Brown's bottom line.
We started off the year about 17% up over the best year that we had. And then all of a sudden you start hearing these reports about this virus that's coming in.
Did you have to lay off employees?
We did.
And while Trump's response to the crisis has been fiercely criticized, the president still has Brown's vote. Back on the open road, another some 200 miles under a picture-perfect Missouri sky.
We're kind of changing our business model.
For a meeting with a local rancher.
The heartland is considered Trump country, but Michael Billings is the exception. He's the owner of this 300-acre bison ranch. What has COVID done to your business?
Some of the effects of COVID have essentially shut us down. We can't get our animals to the market. We can't sell product.
Billings, who did not vote for Trump in 2016, is putting his support behind Biden.
How do you deal with your neighbors who are Trump supporters? Do you talk about it? Do you?
The climate of the nation is such that I wouldn't be surprised if I put up a sign and then my fence is cut and my buffalo are out.
But not everyone has made up their mind. Farmer Robert Hazelton and his nephew Ryan Johnson both voted independent in 2016 and are still undecided this time.
Will the debates make a difference, do you think?
No.
Did the Republican National Convention speech make a difference?
I didn't even listen to it.
Hazelton says he likes Trump's support of farmers, but doesn't like some of the way Trump does things. And Ryan?
I've never voted for a Democrat at the top of the ticket. I haven't ruled it out this time.
The final leg of our journey, nearly 8 hours.
From the cornfields in Kansas to the mountains of Colorado, Colorado is a classic battleground state, a purple state. There are extremists on the left, extremists on the right, and everything in between.
In case you couldn't tell from the I'm a Trumpster bus behind him, Reggie Carr is all in for the president.
I listened to him for about maybe 5-10 minutes, and I knew he was the one.
The president's law and order rhetoric is resonating with Reggie and his business partner.
Wouldn't you want somebody who's going to send in the National Guard or send in authorities to stop people from looting, burning down your buildings? Wouldn't you want a president like that?
Others are eager for change after Trump's first term.
These last 4 years have been really tough, particularly for the Latino community. We've been antagonized by this administration.
Salvador Hernandez helps the Latino community of Colorado engage in the political process and says Joe Biden could be doing more to reach that key demographic.
I currently don't know what his platform is going to be, other than, I'm better than Donald Trump.
Soon after we arrived in Denver, this bombshell headline alleging Trump called fallen American soldiers suckers and losers, an accusation the president has forcefully denied. Tell me what your reaction was when you read that article about the
Broke
things.
my heart.
Charlie Dominguez is a Vietnam War veteran.
We're not losers. We're not suckers. The government sent us over there. We didn't send me to the war. The government sent us to go fight for this country.
But others we spoke to, like veteran Nick Gray, are more skeptical.
My immediate reaction was, what is this? This doesn't make a lot of sense. And each allegation was supported by anonymous sources.
So you simply don't believe the article?
Absolutely not.
As for how Gray measures the president,
the actions. And what are the actions of the president? What has he done for the military, but also for the veterans as well?
He tweets a lot, he says a lot. I think that's all about going after a certain voting bloc. It's not what he really feels. And so when you take it back to national security, I'm really worried that he's going to put men and women needlessly in harm's way.
Veteran Drew Sloan, a West Point graduate who was severely wounded in Afghanistan, served in Iraq as well. When you first saw it, did it surprise you? Did it make you angry?
It didn't surprise me. You can see what he said about Senator McCain from the very start. I think this is someone who respects the military vote, but that's not the same thing as respecting military service.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.